Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's Frank, and I'm here to tell you about my new Instagram TV series, Outrageous. The premise of Outrageous is simple. I report on the latest cultural rage, or the latest cultural outrage, happening around us at the moment. Get it? It's called Outrageous. Outrage, rage, it's two different words, but they're in the same word. Anyway, sometimes I talk about something I hate, sometimes I talk about something I love, but it's always on every Monday on Instagram at The Nothing Pod, or on Facebook at The Nothing Podcast with Nobody Important.
You're listening to The Nothing Podcast with Nobody Important, where a group of nobodies speak to an actual somebody. And now your hosts, John and Frank.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? I'm John.
I'm Frank.
And you're listening to The Nothing Podcast.
With Nobody Important. Today's guest, John, is divine.
Oh?
Well, not necessarily divine, but she's definitely working for the man upstairs. So our guest today brings a really interesting blend of her faith, her philosophy, her personal identity, her mission in working with at-risk kids, and she's really stepping out into uncharted territory. She's sort of inspirational.
Yeah, absolutely. And our podcast for her is very uncharted because we just laugh at a whole bunch of concepts. No, but, this episode gets a little deeper than we usually get, as you would expect on an episode based in faith. But we thought it was really important to talk to her about what her work is that she does, and we really related to it in a lot of ways, especially because we're recording this during Holy Week leading into Easter. So Easter will have just passed. If you blinked, you missed it. It just ran right by you. It was a couple days ago.
I missed. I don't think I went to church this Easter.
No, I don't think anybody did.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. But she blessed us with her presence. And in these times that we're living through, these unprecedented times, as it's become known, there's a lot of things that are out of our control. We can bring you great audio. We cannot guarantee you great audio quality. So, we're doing this through Zoom, and we ask you to forgive us a little bit. Everybody's doing the best they can. We're trying to do different audio tracks. She's coming at us from her laptop, and so, I know that I always... we're asking you to be a little forgiving.
John is an audio apologist. You're an audio apologist.
Yes, I'm asking you to be a little forgiving if there are times where it sounds a little robotronic, as it were. But I think that you guys are going to take something really special away from this episode. I think it's really inspirational.
Yeah, she's a pretty profound lady, and no matter what you believe, maybe you don't believe in anything, I just think it's an interesting episode, especially to hear someone's perspective on so many different issues and so many different things in her life that she's passionate about.
Absolutely. So let's just do it. Let's bring her in. Let's welcome this week's guest.
Hi, Sontaia Briggs, youth advocate, mentor, and queer faith activist.
So everybody, I have to say that about 2 months ago, I was asked by our amazing government to serve on jury duty.
Wow.
And the best thing I got out of my time serving on jury was meeting our guest, Taya. Here she is.
Wow.
Wow, that's incredibly kind.
So I mean, let's be fair. I've done jury duty before. It is incredibly kind, but it's not that high a bar. The best thing to take out of jury duty.
Those are facts.
Yeah.
That's true. So I believe I met Taya on the line on the security checkpoint going in on day one. Yeah. You were only there one day, or we were there 2 days?
I was just there one day. It seems so long.
Okay.
More than
I had to go back.
1 day.
So we were there in the morning on the line, and I don't know, but I think we started talking about breakfast foods.
We did. Well, you had coffee and a egg sandwich, and I wanted a bacon egg sandwich, but I was pretty sure we couldn't bring that in there.
Yeah.
We eyes locked with our coffees, and I was like, wow, I wish I would have got a sandwich. You're like, you can have half of mine. I'm like, I don't know if we can bring it in there. So we were deciding whether or not we just can eat the sandwich online really quick or try to bring it in.
Right. That's right.
You
and
gave
listen,
half your sandwich away?
Well, not at this point. I didn't. I gave her this half the sandwich once we got up into the holding room. But, yes. I'm such a bleeding heart that I was nervous now. I didn't know we couldn't bring anything in. And there were signs, right? No food or drink. But it's like, listen, I'm going to be here all day. I need this coffee.
Right.
So when we got to the front at the at the x-ray machine, I said to the guy who had no interest in talking to me, I said, listen, I guess I can't bring this. Do you want this egg sandwich? He was the first guy I tried to pawn it on, right? And he said, no, you can have it. It's fine. So I was like, I was in, right? But then when I got upstairs, I only wound up eating half because my new friend Taya had the other half of the egg sandwich.
That's so sweet.
I know.
There it is.
Well,
I feel like I won that day.
I had coached Frank. I had coached Frank on how to do jury duty the day before. He was very nervous. He had never done it before, and I've done it twice.
Did you coach me on? I guess, did we talk about it?
Yeah, of course. You asked me. You were like, "What is this? What do I have to do? I don't even know what to do."
And the funny story, not that we're going to talk about jury duty this whole interview, but Taya, do you remember what happened when we were in the holding room? There were about 500 of us in this big room,
right? And
there was one thing that happened with the vending machine.
Oh, yeah. So people got a little desperate after just being in that one room for a while. The person that came out, she was really intense. She gave little instruction. You didn't really feel like you can ask a question. So once we were able to go to another room to get a snack, someone put their hand in the vending machine to try to pull their item out, and it got stuck.
Right. So what she's saying is a grown-ass man got his finger stuck in the coffee vending machine. It was so bad, the fire department came, and everybody, 500 people were laughing about this guy who got his finger stuck in the vending machine.
That's a way better experience than I had.
Yeah.
I just watched the loading screen on the TV because they forgot to put something on for like hours.
Amazing. So anyway, so Taya and I got to talking. We both work with kids or youth, so that kind of came up. And then she kind of told me a very abridged version of her story, and I thought she was incredible. And instantly in my head, I was like, oh, she has to be a guest on the show.
Sure.
So Taya, is there like a Cliff Notes version of what you do, and then we can sort of elaborate?
Sure. Yeah. I guess I would say my whole life, even as a youngster, I always volunteered in some capacity. But what I remember mostly is people working with me, like adults mentoring me, talking to me, spending time with me. I'm an only child. And from that relationship, it kind of created this desire in me to always work with young people. So it would be like after school programs, and it was college counseling. Then I was an admissions counselor. And somewhere along this journey, I guess you could say people they hear a call when they end up going to seminary. But I had a desire to kind of bridge my work with young people and to bring my relationship with God into it. So I ended up going to seminary like much later in life. I graduated in 2016 and I studied youth ministry, which was a program I didn't even think existed. But once I saw it, I was like, wow, this could be the perfect marriage of all the things that I want to do. And then within that, young people and kind of I guess you would say the most vulnerable young people are LGBTQ. And I'm like, well, I definitely want to be a voice, be a bridge for young people that might have had the experiences I had. And so that's where the queer faith activism comes in and the bridging work. And really, it's just a lot of conversations with people that I wouldn't normally have conversations with, and bringing a little bit of who I am, listening to who they are, because I think Frank and I talked about like how personal faith is. So I don't go in trying to convince anyone of anything, but just, from a perspective of if we can't come together on our beliefs about God, but we're humans and people deserve the right to live and not be interfered with. And it's particularly young people, because I personally believe we have a responsibility to care for them. So that's it. Like, that would be a culmination of it all. But yeah.
I mean, that's pretty much all I need.
I was poking around on your website of
they need a lot of work
of U University, which I guess you could talk about, but you had a thing in there that said diversity is divine.
Yeah.
Is that your line? Because that's an amazing line.
I'm going to go ahead and say that. Not my line.
Okay.
A lot of people say it. My friend and my partner in ministry, Marion Edmonds Allen, she said that. There's another woman I respect highly, Liz Edmonds. She wrote a really amazing book called Queer Virtue. She says that as well. And when you think about God, like I always say like an idea of a supernatural God, then diversity would be intrinsic to that, because God is not binary. I don't believe God's love is binary. God's not binary. Those are kind of human concepts to interpret the world. So diversity would have to be divine, right? God is all powerful and then made this kind of mistake when it came to these group of people. It just doesn't really align to me, but I accept that that's a very hard thing for people to put together, for themselves. So that's where the conversations come in, and I guess you call it a radical listening and, and respectful listening, right? Because we all have a story, and, these things that formed us, they mean something. So I'm not trying to
Sure.
hard, just offer you something else.
Well, absolutely. It's diving in for pretty early into this, but like, I feel like, how could you say that, if your particular belief in God is that you were, that he makes no mistakes, or that God,
Right.
God makes no mistakes as a concept. How could anybody be wrong? How could literally, if this is what you are, you're right. This is what you are.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's no wrong. It's not possible. If that's your belief, it's not possible. Which I think, if you break it down, gets pretty muddy for a lot of people, because that does not track with their feelings.
No, I mean, it does. It's hard, a lot of these things that we believe, religion has been used for a lot of different things, for control, for consent, to get people to do what they want to do. And then there's a faith component, there's a spirituality. Like people are like, oh, you're very religious. I'm like, no, I'm spiritual. I'm not. Like, I don't believe all those rules. I wasn't raised in the church. I just don't have all that. I would say good in a way. I don't have all that baggage in a way. I don't have that guilt.
Sure.
I don't have all these things I had to kind of like take apart. I just have my relationship with God, my belief that, you say this amazing God is here that we all have access to. So I never felt like I needed to go to a place or a person to interpret God for me. But, as I've gotten older, community is nice. I think that's what we're all seeking. And, what happens when you tell people what they believe is a little bit different, it threatens their community or their identity. So like, I very much get the tension, but I'm also like, we need each other, right? So let's just try to figure out how we can coexist with our beliefs, because you have a right to believe what you want to believe. Like, you definitely do,
Right.
People seem to lay claim into God, I think. Yeah. And I think that when you then, that would almost be like, for some people saying, like if Taya, if you popped up and you were like, no, I actually know your mother better than you do. And I'd be like, excuse me? You know Tina? Like, I'd be like, wait, what?
Right.
Like, I think that whenever we talk about God, and there's all the different expressions of God, or the different religions, right? And look, many people say all roads lead to Rome anyway. Right. But I think, you step on some toes, and especially with you coming at it with the LGBTQ lens, which I think when I think, your story's crazy to me, because in my head I hear seminary, religion, LGBTQ, advocate, and I'm like, wow, usually those things do not go in the same sentence.
Right.
Which makes you you're like a revolutionary to me.
Well, like, even in the LGBTQ world, those things don't go together. Like, my friend always makes a joke when we do these sort of workshops and conversations. When I'm in an audience, I figure I'm going to come out as queer. I'm going to come out as a minister, like she's a minister, because those things don't normally go together. And even when I'm speaking to like friends or just like colleagues or allies, it's always a pause. And then we have to kind of get into this story, because people tell you have to have one or the other. Like, that's the common belief. And I'm like, no, I don't have to have one. I mean, I would be like cutting myself in half to me.
Sure.
Like, so there's no one or the other. These things naturally belong together. So, yeah.
I mean, cutting people in half goes as far back into the Bible as we can, I mean, that's something that, Abraham, we've been encouraging, but, I want, which is funny that way I just said that, but I'd like to go back to the beginning.
Okay.
Of time. No. So, because I definitely have opinions and things that I want to delve into on those specific points you just made. But I think it's important to draw a map from A to B before we start talking about C really in depth, right? So,
sure.
You said you weren't brought up in organized religion per se, as like
no,
right. So how did you, without talking about the call yet, because I want to talk about that, how did this pique your interest? How did the idea of spiritualism or God pique your interest at all? If it wasn't come to you through church or through any sort of gathering, where did it come from? If you even know.
I feel like I've always been in conversation with God. Like, I think that we probably all are to some degree. And there are just like a few moments in my life where these miracles, I would say, happen. And, when people are like miracles, like, no, nobody was brought back to life, not like that. But, things that would not, you think about, like, wow, where'd that come from? Sort of like God was always watching me, and we were always in relation and conversation. And I just was always curious. I can't really explain it. Like when I was an undergrad, I took a lot of religious studies classes, and it was all religions. I was just curious about just what people thought about God and their relationship to God. I was really fascinated by Judaism for many years, just buy books, read on my own. And then as I got older and after, undergrad, I began to focus more on Christianity just through different experiences. Like I think I worked at a church, and it was like the camp, and I work with the kids, I have conversations with people. So I don't know if you look at it like philosophy or any other type of discipline, I was always naturally curious about religion and about God, but then it just became more personal as I began to identify points in my life. And so this is going to sound very churchy when I say it, but I can be in the worst mood ever, and I'll open the Bible and I'll read something, and I'll just somehow get some wisdom and feel better. It's just, I don't know. And I mean, I know there's some things in there like, what? Like, I don't agree with all of it, or even, I just seems crazy. But I also say, we believe that aliens exist. So sure, a man was killed and he came back to life. Why can't you believe that? Like, I mean, it's okay.
Yeah.
It's just.
Taya, what is, I'm a little confused. What is the Bible?
What's the Bible? It's just some people call this really great story that
the greatest story ever told, I've heard.
Or some would say this is the truth,
Yeah.
Every single, I'm like, well, you gotta be a little easy with that. But
Yeah.
So to be clear, you were in a Christian seminary.
yes, it's non-denominational, and it's diverse and inclusive. That's the little bullets they had on the website.
Right.
It was rare, right? I never thought that I was like, wow, A, can I go to seminary? And B, what's that going to be like? Because even still, it had all those things. There's fear, because with something being inclusive and diverse, that means you have everybody who agrees or disagrees. So, you run into that too. So it was very like nerve-wracking, and I was like really terrified, but I also felt like it was something that I had to do. And honestly, it was like one of the best educational decisions I've ever made in my life. Like I changed and deepened, and a lot of things kind of deconstructed about what I thought about people. Like I was thinking about, as I was thinking in my mind, preparing for tonight. And I was thinking, if I had not had those experiences in seminary, I would have probably never revealed myself to Frank in the way that I did when we were talking. Because the person that identifies as queer, there's also always a fear with this coming out, because you just don't know how people are going to react. But I'm like so comfortable with myself. And also I've had these conversations with people who I'm like, you may not like all the things I believe, but I think Sontaia is pretty okay. Like we can just be people. We don't have to get into all that. And I just, I was like, oh, this guy seems cool. I was like, you live in Bay Ridge, did you say?
Wow. Yes.
Okay. I was like, Bay Ridge. I was like, Italian. Yeah. I was like, maybe I might keep this to myself. But we just.
That's unfortunately true. It's unfortunately true.
But it was. But this is the beauty of it, right? To me, like God was all over that experience. Who just line, and we literally just stuck together the whole day. I mean, there was lots of people in there looking all kinds of miserable, and we just kept the other company, talked about everything, had lunch. I mean, it's just. Yep. Happen, you know what I mean? Unless people are just kind of open. And I think that's sort of what you have to do in this kind of work, because people are, it's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable for me,
Right.
There was like a presence about you though, where I just felt like I was like, oh, this lady can handle shit. That's why I feel like you knew stuff. I was like, I'm gonna stay with her. Like she was cool. We were talking. You dressed cool. Your hair was cool. I was like, she's with it. She's not crazy. She can handle stuff, and she's taller than me. I'm gonna stay with her. So that was.
If you were like an old dude with a long beard and like mustard stains, he probably wouldn't have turned to you and offered you his sandwich.
No.
I mean,
I definitely wouldn't have.
It was an offering. I needed your protection.
I mean, that guy could have been real cool. You don't know that, but there was something that drew you together. Now, I'm going to play a little devil's advocate here because I want to know what your answer to this question would be. I mean, and you'll find that I don't fall in this category, but so you say that there was a divine presence that brought you there, or that it was influencing you talking to Frank, or that you can open the Bible and find anything to give you inspiration. Other people would say it's happenstance. there's nothing
Right.
divine about it. They'd see the same thing and find nothing divine about it. Or they'd open the Bible and find, here are words, and see nothing there.
Right.
So what is the difference, do you think, between... It's. I think that's where the word belief, I think, comes into it, right? Is
Right. Right.
You,
Definitely.
you believe that there's a presence here, whereas someone else would say it just happened to be.
Right.
So, what's your take on as someone whose opinion would be that way? Obviously, like you said, you're not going to tell people how to feel. I mean,
So I don't know. It's I've thought about that, and I think about that, and like I have friends who are let's say agnostic. They don't. Nobody really ever wants to pick up the atheist title, but
right.
and I'm like, so I don't know. I can't really explain it. I just the idea that it doesn't even actually like make logical sense. Like you're just here and you're doing it all on your own and making things happen. Like that's not even how the world is set up. We are working together. Like your show works because you have guests, not because you're just making it. You know what I mean? So
Right, absolutely.
All right, Taya, I wouldn't say that, but I agree with everything else you said. But God, yeah, sure, yeah, whatever, yeah, God.
all you magical people came together. But nothing is just spinning on its own because of just you. And so it makes sense to me, but I understand that the idea that something that you can't see, touch, and you have no idea what this thing is going to do, and you don't know how your story is going to end, like that's also, and that is in control of your life. That's terrifying. That could be a terrifying thought as well. For me, it's comforting. Like I can have a yogi tea that has those little messages on there and get inspiration from that. So it's
Sure.
the Bible. It's just like I can derive inspiration from life, and I think that could if we gave it a chance. But sometimes it's threatening to people to just something that's outside of what they believe is in control. But we're not really in control of anything anyway.
Right.
So I can't really explain it. I just know.
No, that's a good explanation that you had there.
Yeah. I don't know. Like I'm like faith is an exercise, right? Every day it's different. Different things happen. Like it's just like, especially now with this, health crisis is just, who knows, like, who knows?
Right.
Mask, don't wear a mask. I'm like, I don't know. Just, yeah.
Yeah.
I was wearing a Halloween mask for a while, but I don't think that's what they're talking about.
I saw a woman with a birthday hat cone on her mouth in a meme.
No.
I was like, well, I guess it's covering her nose and her mouth, technically.
That's so good. Taya, what is it like for you when you, is it right to say you minister to youth?
So yeah, personally, I'm still growing in the comfort with the word minister, but what they say, I guess, if you're in the ministry business, whatever you do is your ministry. Like this podcast is your ministry. This is how you have conversations. This is how you dialogue. This is how you bring ideas into the world. So this is your ministry. So yeah, you could say that. I mean, now on this end, it's mostly a lot of having conversation with people who may be curious about this whole LGBT and faith thing, or people who might have youth serving organizations, but it might not be faith-based. And, like, well, why would we want you guys here? Doesn't the church do this? And I was like, well, some people have done these things, but from what I've learned over and over again is everybody wants community. And I just want to let these young people know that no one can take this from you. And there are people like myself and churches and organizations and individuals who love you and want you to have your authentic relationship with God, whatever that looks like. And no one has the right to take that from you. So that's sort of what it's a lot of those and it's going in places that are kind of, uncomfortable, but it ends up being really good. Like I went to a Pride Shabbat this past June, and I was like stressed out about this thing for like a month. I was like, so what are they going to want me to do? And just asking the person over and over. And I'm like, what am I saying? How long is it going to be? Because I just need to know everything to feel comfortable. And it was like all these like kind of older Jewish white people. Some of them were gay, some of them wasn't. And it was a lot of them, old people show up for stuff. And it was, they do. And I was just like, this is so intense. And they were really nice. It was a good conversation. It worked out just fine. But I was like at Stanford, Connecticut. I was like, it was just really different. Like, so it's a lot of being out of my comfort zone, but I remember they're here because they want to know something. They're curious. So
right.
It's going to be all right. I hope,
Yeah.
So you said you were uncomfortable with you're getting more comfortable with the phrase minister.
Right.
So
right. That was the question.
You mentioned no. You mentioned the call. You mentioned hearing the call, and that when you were young, you didn't hear the call, and then you did. Now the call is from a higher being.
Right.
I pretty famously among my friends group, when I was in high school, considered going to the seminary, but I felt that I didn't hear the call. It was a choice I was making. I could choose to be a plumber. You don't choose to be a priest or a minister per se. Like, you have to feel 100% pushed, or so I thought at the time. Now I'm realizing that, I mean, Frank and I are both actors, and I talk about it all the time. They're like, you have to be 100% there. No matter 100% how there you are, you're still aware you're on a stage. You're still making the choice to perform. You could be crying your eyes out. You're still choosing to feel that emotion. So I guess as I'm older, I'm starting to realize that the choice can play a part of it. So what do you describe? How do you speak to what the idea of the necessary call from a higher being, and how that plays into the decision to become a minister, even become religious?
So I think I look at this, what you're asking me, the same way I kind of look at this saying that this meditation studio I go to, they say, if you think you can't meditate, we'll show you you can. And if you think you have to wait till you have the perfect form, or you can sit this many hours to meditate, you don't. So I think there's this idea that you have to be, even with church, people say, you know what, once I get a little better, I'll go to church. There are no perfect people in church. I mean, if once you're better, you're probably dead, right? So the point is the action of doing something is a part of the making. So there is no, like, for me, I just kept feeling like this is something I want to do and I should do it. I don't know what's going to happen. I didn't necessarily, like, even when I got to school, I didn't want to be the LGBT faith person. I was like, oh gosh, I have enough things to think about. I don't want to be that person. my advisor was like, if not you, then who? And I'm like, and then I think that's where it's like, when you say yes to something that is extraordinarily uncomfortable, but who else is going to talk about it? Who else is going to be a Black woman with locks talking about, I believe in Jesus. Oh, and I'm gay. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, they're out there, but why not? So it's just that, I guess, being uncomfortable, but just fighting through that discomfort, because you just know it's something you have to do. Right. You know where it's going to go. Like, people, punch people, my classmates, they want to be pastors in churches, at the pulpit. They have their eyes set on that. Some people are very much choosing it, whether they believe they're called or not. That's, it's just what they want. I was like, I don't want any of that. I just want to be in the background. I want to write some stuff. I want to have some conversations. Like, I just am not interested in that. But again, now I'm kind of in this space where I feel like not that I'm led to that traditional church context, because I don't think that'll ever be me, but something more, just even doing this, just because now I'm putting myself out there with this idea or what I believe, and I'm opening myself up to a criticism, or either to dialogue or to growth. And I'm saying, this is what so now I'm putting myself in the position I always have to kind of either defend it, explain it, or help people understand it, and then bring other people in. They're like, I really like what you said. And then now, can you tell me more? And I'm like, well, I'm not a teacher or a preacher, but this is what I think. You know what I mean?
Right. Sure.
Have you found that, like, when you've worked with youth or kids, that do you ever get the feeling like you were the missing puzzle piece that they needed at that time to either, like, accept themselves or move forward with themselves, or I don't know, experience the world in a deeper way?
I mean, I don't know if I'm anybody's missing piece, but I feel like,
or at least their next step. At least their next step is they hop across the pond, like you're the next rock to hop on.
The only thing I feel like maybe what seems like happens with some of the young people or groups that I'm speaking with, my standing up and saying what I believe or being who I am, maybe, I won't say permission because that's a very big word, but it's like, oh, I can feel, think, I can have that. Do you know what I mean? So I think maybe that happens, because sometimes it's like, I never knew. And I'm like, it's surprising. There are so many churches, so much community, so many people. You can have all these things. Now, of course, these same people who want to make your life difficult are always going to be there. But you have a whole community of people who are like, hell no, So I think that it's like, oh, I can actually walk through that door, because she just came right through it. Do you know what I mean? So maybe that, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely. What's the Bible quote? Something like preach the gospel at all times, if necessary, use words. Isn't that something? Where am I getting that from? Preach the gospel at all times, if necessary, use words. Meaning, live your life out. You don't have to necessarily. But it's how you live.
Yeah. Well, one thing I say, that probably is a scripture. I mean, I don't know the Bible.
I don't know.
But I say, what I like to feel like what I believe is how I present, like, so how I carry myself or what I'm saying or what I'm doing or what I'm involved in, like that. Your faith should be an action. It's not just how you describe something. People should see it. Like I have a friend she's been a youth minister since she was probably like 16, like young evangelist. She's one of these people raised in the church. And right now, through everything that's happening, she was like, yeah, I go to the church steps on Thursday and I just read the scripture out loud because I want people to know, although the church is closed, God is still open for everybody. And I was like, you really, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm like, she's just going around and making sure elders in the building have food and just, there are people that are just, that's just, it's who they are through and through, no matter what, they're always out there doing it. So,
Right. Absolutely. It's funny. It's very funny, actually, just to talk about what's going on right now with this whole crazy pandemic stuff. There's a lot of people, a respected voice in the community, Hulk Hogan, said the other day, he came out with a comment the other day that said, a vaccine is not what we need right now. God is what we need right now.
Yeah.
And I mean, I kind of, my feeling is, I think there's a medium ground, especially right now.
Yes.
That I think everybody,
we'll take a vaccine
need
too.
both.
That's
right.
fine.
There's an old joke where, there's the man is dying and he's drowning and he says, no, I don't. The guy with the boat comes along and the guy says, no, I don't need the boat. God will save me. And then so on forth, another boat and then a helicopter or whatever it is. And eventually the man dies and he gets to heaven and he says, God, you didn't save me. And
what
says,
happened?
What do you mean? What do you mean I didn't save you? I sent 2 boats and a helicopter. But I think that's right now, I think that's a very important thing to keep in mind. Like, this is a real thing, but if you choose to look at it through a faith perspective, for the better or for the worse, like this is part of a plan, or I don't know. It's tough right now.
I saw a meme recently that was like, someone was, walking around, God, please, save us, and then you see signs say, wash your hands and use hand sanitizer and do all these different things, and the person's like, I know God is gonna, deliver us and all this stuff, and then it gets to the end and the person's in the hospital. Like, God, what happened? Like, well, I sent you hand sanitizer. I told you to wash your hands.
Right.
It's, you can have both, right? Like, I have great faith. I said to someone, I said, I'm asking and I'm praying for this to be done. Like, not done, but the curve flattens and things, start to recover by the end of May, June. That's my prayer. But I have the little thing you have to put over your face now. I wash my hands.
Of course, right.
Well, I mean, you can have faith and common sense, right? Faith, I would say, is, common sense is a gift of, faith.
But I think there are a lot of people who would say that, and I don't think any of us are those people who would say, well, if you have faith or you believe in something bigger than yourself, you have no common sense. You're purely emotional. You're not going with logic, which I don't agree with.
Right.
Well, there's the argument, I think, to that, Frank, if I may, is that I think there are a lot of people who put their faith first and put it out there and say things that sound like a person who has no common sense.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Do you know what I mean? Like, it happens to be. I don't think there's a correlation between religion and having no common sense. I think that the people who have no common sense lean on religion in public settings to try to gain other people who have no common sense. But
that's tough because you have to know the room. You have to play your crowd, and it's like for some people to come out and preach on the steps. I think most people will pass that person. And look, I am somebody. I go to church, right? I would pass, and I'd go like, "Ooh, she's too much," and I feel like guilty about it. But even like I think Taya, come on, Taya, deep down you'd be like, "Bold move, not for me." Like
I mean, I'm not. So, I was looking on some different sites, seeing what services were out there for youth, and it was like, how do you want us to? The website said, how do you want us to contact you? And it was like, cook food in the kitchen, pack some meal bags, and I think the last thing was like make a donation or something. And I was like, oh, I wouldn't mind cooking. I was like, well, maybe after this whole situation goes, maybe I'll just make a little gift. It's human nature to want to live.
Yeah, of course.
Just, yeah. And I don't think I'm like that. I think they'll take the money and it's like, okay, and I'm happy that you guys, I'm grateful. But yeah, I'm going to wait until maybe July before I go to the kitchen and start making some meals.
Right. Well,
I mean, Danielle's waiting until August, I think, right, John?
Danielle's been waiting forever. Everybody's got to kind of do with their own thing. Like Frank was saying, we're Danielle, and it's funny. We could talk about the stigma. I want to get into it a little later, but Danielle always says to people that I'm religious. She tells people that I'm religious. And I always go, no. She'll introduce me to people, and she'll be like, oh, yeah, John's really religious. I'm like, no, okay, I'm not religious. We'll talk later about the stigma as to why I feel I need to defend that statement.
No, I know.
But Frank and I are both, faith-based, and Danielle is faith-based in her own way as well. Everybody's got different ways that they approach these things.
Right.
But I think you're still a human. Especially Frank and I.
Yes.
I mean, and you seem to fall in the same category. We're funny. Our first thing to fall on is like, this is a funny thing. Like, even in an episode we did a couple days ago, Frank was talking about people who put Bible quotes in their in their cubicles. They cut out a Bible quote and put it in their cubicle, and that may be a nice uplifting quote, but you walk by that person and go, all right. You're doing a lot. Doesn't mean you're a bad person. It just means,
No, you know what? I don't know. It's interesting because it could, so in me, I like to, at work, because work can be very intense. So if I see a quote, like I said, it could be that T quote. It could be a Bible quote, but I know everybody that's not their thing. And I will give it to people, but also there's, those people that sometimes I'm just like, I don't know that I'll ever be a trained evangelist. I respect them, and I'm like, wow, that's
they
dope.
come on, they sing their psalms, and I smile. I don't mind it on the train. I like it. You sing a nice song, I'm good.
No, I mean, full preachers, and people are annoyed. It's early in the morning. Nobody really wants to hear all that.
Yeah,
that's what they feel like they're led to do, but I don't know that. I don't have that experience per se, but I see both. I can chuckle to myself. I'm like, well, he's doing what he feels like he has to do, so okay.
Right.
Shall we play our first game?
Yeah, I think so.
Taya, are you ready for this?
I hope so.
Yeah. We like to play games on here.
Yeah, but the whole thing's a game. Okay, so John, you have it. You have have half.
I have half. I think I have to. You have to start.
Okay, so Taya, we play in every episode. It's called the rating game, which is when we ask you to rate some things that we think are remotely related to you and the things we've been talking about.
Yeah, actually, I'm going to start. I'm going to start the first one.
Okay, that's fine.
Because there's one in here that you need to get.
Got it. So for the rating game, you might say, well, how do I rate the thing, right? And we say to you, we don't care. You can rate it in anything.
Okay.
You can rate it in, what have we talked about so far?
Rate it in LGBT youths 1 to 10. No.
You could rate it in how about church steps outside? That's what the lady's standing on when she's praying. So rate it in church steps.
10 steps being
10
the
steps,
best. 1 step is the worst.
Okay. So
well, if you ask my father, 1 step is the best. 10 steps is the worst. But.
Right. There's always 10 is good or 1 good. Which one is it?
Let's say 10 is good. 1 is bad.
Good. Okay. Yeah. So the topic here, Taya, we're going to ask you to rate the following things pertaining to God. To God, obviously. Okay.
Okay.
With a capital G.
Okay.
Capital G.
Gotcha.
Remember, this is a comedy show, Taya. Okay.
All right, so number 1 is the burning bush. The burning bush. Do we think that's what do we think? That's the best means of communication that they could have come up with?
Fire's dangerous, so no. I would say maybe a 4.
Okay.
So 4. I would say the 4th step.
What were we gonna do? Honestly, there was no other way to communicate except for speaking through a flaming shrub.
Okay, ready for the next one?
Yes.
Taya, how do you rate parting the Red Sea? Rookie move or pro?
No, that's definitely a 10.
Yeah,
That's big time. That's
That's a good
impressive
one.
to anybody.
it is.
Yeah,
I think
yeah,
so.
yeah,
And I
think
can't
so.
swim, so that's really good.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
think what? You think when they were walking through the parted sea, the fish were really flopping in the walls?
Yes.
Yes,
I think they were
do.
still
100%.
swimming. I think they were just still swimming, and
They were taken with it. Oh.
yeah, they were just like this,
Yeah.
It's like an aquarium. Yeah.
I'm
Nice.
gonna say the depiction of God having a beard. Where did that come from? Why is that? Why does he look exactly like Moses?
I
Get
just
creative
feel like
here, people.
the beard, I would say, I don't know, for whatever reason, the beard legitimizes things. So
I think so.
that'd be a 10.
10.
It could be
10.
anybody, but a
That's
beard,
it.
it just does it.
Yeah.
You like a beard on him.
Yes.
You like a bearded deity. Okay.
I say
Who doesn't?
wisdom.
Okay, so
Right.
this one is not really a rating. It's kind of long. So you ready? God bless America. God save the Queen. Whose side is he on anyway?
Getting blessed, getting
I mean-
saved.
I think he's on everybody's side.
Everybody's side. That's the answer.
Love it. Love it.
I like that. Okay, what about this one? We're going to talk plagues right now.
Ooh,
Specifically the frogs.
okay.
So I get the locusts. Oh, right. The blood. Oh, the sea of blood. No. but
Yeah.
Frogs? What are we doing? Frogs? What are we doing?
What are we doing? Biology class?
Yeah. Honestly, that lines up with me with the mascot for Maryland. Fear the turtle. I'm like, I don't really get it.
Yeah, no,
why
I
is
don't
it
fear the
turtle?
turtle. No, I don't fear the
Fear
turtle.
the turtle.
Fear the turtle. Terrible turf. So I was like, fear the turtle.
Sure, fear the turtle. So fear the frogs falling from the sky.
Okay, Taya, here's the next one.
Okay.
Please rate this. Resting on the 7th day.
I mean, I think that any day could be the 7th day, depending on when your week starts.
Right.
So that's
Any
a good
day
one.
could be the 7th day. That's right.
Got it.
I don't know what day it is now. I'm resting every day.
Honestly,
Every day is the 7th day here.
I have to make a little ritual for myself because they just start
Oh,
blending
yeah.
in together.
I wear jeans. I'm wearing jeans. People think I'm crazy, but like I got to get up and get dressed.
Yeah, I like it.
Me too.
Yeah. All right, last one. Morgan Freeman. He's. I mean,
He's a sage old black guy.
yeah.
He is the
wanna,
voice
like-
of God.
I think that's the
It's
way
secret.
that I like to picture God. Is Morgan Freeman from Bruce Almighty.
That's it. That's it. In the big white with the white file cabinet, right?
Yes.
Like
So what do you think about Morgan
that
Freeman,
guy-
Taya? You like him?
Yeah, he's always playing some kind of fatherly figure. You feel paternal. You feel safe, I guess.
Absolutely.
He's never played a villain. Has Morgan Freeman ever played a bad guy?
I don't.
Yes.
Oh, he has, and it's a little disturbing. Yeah, I think he has. When he's a bad
Yes,
guy,
He has.
Did
you find out
Did
he's
Morgan
bad.
Freeman marry his granddaughter? Wasn't there something about that?
What?
Yes,
Oh,
there was
I don't
something
know.
weird about
I
Morgan
don't know
Freeman.
about that.
Yes, the
I
guy
don't
you
know
call
anything about
God.
that.
We're gonna have to
Wait a
change the number of steps for him if that's the case.
Yeah,
I'm
is
gonna
that
tell
right?
you right now. I'm gonna tell you right now. Hang on.
Oh no.
Yeah, Morgan Freeman had a love affair scandal with his step granddaughter.
The step is very important.
The step. Oh,
You left
so
the
it's-
step out.
So it doesn't take him down a step for Taya then,
No.
because it's the step
Yes.
granddaughter.
That's just a whole nother. I'm gonna look
We don't know.
to.
We don't know what their relationship was.
But that almost makes him more biblical to me. That relationship with the
Yes.
step granddaughter, really
Well,
Old
there
Testament
was-
of
It
him.
does.
Yeah, there was a lot of that. There wasn't a lot of people, so it was all families, and
Yeah.
They were in the tribe. You should know that when we brought up Morgan Freeman, Taya was tapping on her cheeks, and I know she was doing the freckles.
Yeah, of course.
Yes.
I gotta ask a question here. So I'm not gonna reveal all my cards just yet because I'm not done. But I've been reading the Bible sort of as a book.
Okay.
Okay, because I feel as if I believe in it. I want to know what it says. I want to know what I'm signing up for, right? There's a lot that goes into the idea of church and Bible specifically and fundamentalism. And is it fact, like you said earlier? Is it story? Is it history? What is it? But so I've been reading it, trying to read it from a outside sort of non-believer perspective. Okay, just like seeing what it says.
Okay.
I find that so much of it is so clearly at the time people needing to explain what it is they're seeing around them. And I think if you look back at Greek mythology, it's the same thing. There's the god of flowers. Why? Because those are there and somebody had to put them there. So, right? But I think nothing more stands out to me in the Bible than in the very beginning, when there's a certain sort of lizard that is associated with I believe it's the serpent that's associated with the devil, that started out as some sort of lizard, had legs, and then because of what happened, God took the legs away so it would crawl on its belly forever. Who looked down at a snake and went, I think I know what happened there. I think I can tell you. So long ago it had legs, and then someone had to look at it and go, I got it.
I feel like the snake's life got better once the legs disappeared. You can
totally.
That guy could get under all sorts of stuff. Yeah.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
But yeah, so no, that's just my small side. I've been taking notes. I've been doing a lot of annotation and stuff. A lot of it is coming out as through a comedian's perspective, right? A lot of it I'm learning. Gosh, I'm learning so much. But also a lot of it is looking at it like, oh, wow, okay. I was just reading one before. It was like, Moses said, oh, if I kill you, you'll know. If God kills you, you'll know. If God kills you, you'll be swallowed by the earth. Next thing you know, boom, gobbled up by the earth. Like I'm reading it that way. I'm like, yeah.
You're like, oh, okay.
But it's so interesting that people still, they're always going to, but that people look at something like the Bible and take it for literal, liturgical word. This is the word. Yeah. So that brings us into how the LGBTQ plus thing plays into why people believe that there's this disconnect, which is funny because it comes up, I'm sure, a lot, but I'm 5 books in. There's only been one line that's even remotely said anything like, you can't be this so far.
Right.
And there has to be more. Because if there's just that one line, I'm going to lose it. Like, wow, you guys are really focusing on the wrong thing. Right? But so often, I think, like you said earlier, there's a line drawn between the two, between being religious and being or identifying as part of the LGBTQ plus community.
Right.
And it's funny, we are in theater, Frank and Danielle and I, and we know a lot of people who identify as part of that community, and a shocking amount of them are particularly religious on the inside.
I will agree with you. Yes.
They really relate, and that's where they find. And I think I've reasoned out, and you definitely can tell me because you will know even better. To me, I think it comes from this idea of being ostracized for who you are or judged for who you are. And God, if you believe what is being told, what God is, loves you for exactly who you are and will not judge you. And so when you feel like the world is judging you, you can, even when religion is judging you, you can turn to God, your faith in God, and be accepted. Because God loves you regardless. So that's where I think...
do you want to hire John? He sold it.
But is that not the connection? It's got to be somewhere in there.
Well, yeah, I agree with that. And also, what I think about it like this way, like when you're being, when you're growing up, right? They say you're, I think it's Erickson or one of the psychiatrists, psychologists back then. that the first kind of look a child or person gets of themselves is family. That's their first community. And then church is kind of like the second natural community. And then church is this place where everyone can go, everyone's accepted. It doesn't matter. You could have murdered someone, got out of jail, and you can be welcomed back into this community. And then you get to this one thing, and now I can't be a part of it. But I thought this was for everyone. So it goes against the overarching message you've been hearing your whole life. I don't understand how this somehow falls out of it. And then, just from other denominations taking their position on this, and might call themselves something else, but they had this book, and it says, what would you want to know? And they gave it to all their pastors once they decided to answer this question about like queer people working in the church. And one of the questions was like in the Second Testament where Jesus shows up, Jesus speaks about everything, but they're like, well, what did Jesus say about gay people? And nothing. It never comes up. But Jesus talked about everything: the good, the bad, forgiveness, what you shouldn't do. You did this, but it just never comes up. But it's Jesus, right? And then in the First Testament, everything is, that all that Leviticus, all these different things are about all these people living together that don't normally live together, in rules, and then in sodomy or whatever is a particular act. I would say, I don't have the definition in front of me, but it's not a consensual thing usually. So we're not talking about with people coming together in relationships and choosing to be together. We're talking about, and then these other folks doing these other different things, and we're pushing them clear and makes sense to you. Marriage is about a lot of different things, but marriage essentially was, a contract about property. This is your property, and these families need to come together for these things. So to say this is between these two people, well, I guess that was a contract, and that was between those people. But what we're talking about now, two people choosing to be together, that's not what was happening then. Wasn't biblical. Was just contractual, but we needed to get people to follow it. So we're going to wrap it in all these things. And I just think once you start unwrapping things that like on their own, like I don't have to like make anything up. If you just read some of these things, you're like, that doesn't really make sense. And that said, it's like very terrifying to people, like to just have because they just took it all for whatever reason, you know what I mean? Like that's their world is made up of that. And and if you just, I don't know, if you just can't consider something else, then it's just going to be really difficult, right?
Yeah, if you can't move on, if you only accept what's presented to you,
right,
then how can you possibly ever learn to grow?
Right.
But also, we live in such like an unprecedented time of communication and the internet, and you see everybody. If you really want to, you can see every different type of person. So I think people are seeing the world outside of their own little circle more recently than ever. And I think that's huge in showing people what's out there. Like when you were saying earlier, you said, Taya, like, I don't know how I change their lives, the kids, if what I say or anything, but maybe me, just by being me, shows them that there's people like me, which maybe there's people like you, Right. And it's like, when you said that, I thought of like, I'm going to say this wrong, but like the 4-minute mile or whatever it was, right? 7-minute mile. I don't know what it was, but it was like no one could beat the record to run a mile in, maybe it was 4 minutes, until one person did it. And then everybody could do it. Because they were like, oh, something clicked. Like, I guess I could do it if I push. And then they all did it. So I guess that you just sort of standing up and being you, even if you fly in the face of a lot of things, it shows, you are the door through which other people can become authentic.
Hopefully.
I mean, it's a tall order.
Right, yeah.
I was just going to say, how do you, having gone through seminary, having, you live your life infused with spirituality and God, but I wanted to know sort of how you define God, which is an enormous question.
That's an easy one.
Wow. Especially 56 minutes into a comedy podcast. How do you define God?
I think that God is, if I had to put some words to it, God is everywhere and in everything. And I think that it just, it's, you can, like, they say the move of God, like you can see the move of God anywhere in anything if you're open to seeing it. Like this, I got the other day, I was feeling kind of anxious about, just life. And I got a text. I get these texts from New York, and it was saying how the schools have extended the meals to any person who might want a meal. And I was like, wow, thanks God. Because I was thinking about that. Like, what are all these people kind of doing that if they're not in school? Like, or if you're just kind of like transient or homeless, or like what's happening there? And like the fact that just someone thought about that, and then they had a bunch of meetings and they said, well, yeah, just give it to everybody. Why not? Right. Because I'm sure there's somebody who's going to just need some meals. But in general, like, who knows what that might turn into, because people just need food anyway. Right. And why not continue something like that? But that happened because someone thought about it, or maybe it was it could be obviously some kind of business thing attached to it, because you always something, nothing is for, you don't get something for nothing. But that happened, and I was thinking about it, and I'm not saying I made it happen, but I had really been like thinking like, wow, what are some people going to eat? Because now, there aren't even people on the street to beg for money anymore, because everybody's like, get away from me, and people are just rushing where they're going. So if you're homeless already and you're begging people for money, there are even less people to beg now. So what is that?
Hey, for the record, I work in a school and I've eaten that food, and I think the people are better off not having that food.
I mean, I don't know, burnt toast over no toast, but
I guess so.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, but so I just feel like you can see God in anything if you look, if you're open to it, right? It can be small. It doesn't have to be something, like I said, it doesn't have to be something super big. It can be something small, like, gosh, I need $1.25 to do whatever, and I need some, and then you just find a quarter on the ground. Like, I don't know how many times that just happened for you. You just need it. And that seems very simple, but how did that happen?
Yeah. Right. There's a I think he's a priest, but he's a pretty liberal priest. His name is Father Richard Rohr. Mm-hmm. Wrote a bunch of books. He's an older guy, but he has an expression that I think is so good, and he says that God loves things by becoming them. So good. That's everything. Good. That's everything. Yeah, it's great, right?
Yeah, I like that.
So, get it tattooed somewhere.
Yeah, I like that. Roar.
Neck, maybe. Forehead.
Yeah.
Why as a society do you think, and this is kind of posed to the group as a whole, why are we afraid of religion? Like, people don't want to talk, they always say, I don't want to talk about politics, and I don't want to talk about religion. I get not wanting to talk about politics. I don't get not wanting to talk about religion. Because maybe that's because I'm not the kind of person who's going to tell you how to feel. I barely know how I feel.
Right.
I as I was saying before, Danielle tells people John's religious, and I kind of back off on that. Partially it's because I have that sort of fraud syndrome, as I talked about before, and I've talked about in the past. Like, if I believe in it, but I don't believe in it enough, like I believe in it my own way, and I feel I like it. I definitely want to learn about it. I find it very interesting, and I think there's something there. If you ask me to detail you what I believe in, I don't really have an answer. It's something. I don't have an answer, and I feel like to call myself religious, I feel like I need to have an answer, which isn't necessarily true. But I'm a man of faith, as it were, and then that I'll say, and mainly I think because I don't back off of it, and I think that's part of the reason, Danielle, why you could tell me, I don't know, why you say that I'm religious, mainly means that I'm just not afraid to back off talking about it, because I have opinions.
That might be it. I think I only refer to you as religious is because I don't necessarily refer to myself as religious. Okay. And you are more based in faith than I necessarily am. That's why.
Right.
So
I'm also more knowledgeable in faith.
Right.
As well, which can seem also like, oh, he must believe. Like, no, I don't know. I took in more.
You went to Catholic school,
right? Exactly. Like I know that I am a man of faith because I went to Catholic school. I took religion class. I don't remember any of it, and I wish I could go back and take it all again now. right?
He remembers a lot. He teaches me because I consider myself a very terrible Catholic.
Okay. I don't want to out Danielle at all. This is one of my favorite things. We have gone over the story of Jesus Christ. Everybody knows the story. We have gone over the story many times. Many times. We are musical fans. We've been involved in 2 productions of Godspell. And now 2 productions of Jesus Christ Superstar. And Danielle will still tell me she doesn't understand who Pontius Pilate is supposed to be.
Forget.
And who was Judas,
Danielle, it's a
who
pretty
was
easy
Judas
story.
working for. And we've done it so many times. I'm like,
Therefore, you're religious.
at a
John.
certain point, I turned to
He
him.
just teaches me it over and over again because half the time I'm not really listening,
Yeah,
and he
that's
knows
true,
I'm
too.
not really listening.
You're like, okay.
And then we talk about it 6 months later. I'm like, oh, did we? I don't remember this.
At a certain point, I turned to him and go, it's the Pharisees. Don't you remember the Pharisees? She's like, I don't know what that means. Like,
Still don't remember.
but so we're I think a lot of the time afraid of it, right?
Yeah.
Even this episode, when we were talking about this episode, seeing the way this episode was gonna see what what we were talking about, I was like, are we gonna alienate people who are hesitant to talk about religion or to get too deep about it? Like, how do we fix that? Not that it's the 4 of us our responsibility, but how do we fix that? Listen, I used to get made fun of at work because I would mention that I was religious or that I went to church. I wear a cross, and the guy who sits behind me used to be like, "Oh, you're one of those guy hung up on the wood people, huh?" I'm like,
Oh,
"Bro,
boy.
what do you do?"
Oh my God, really?
Yeah.
That's
He'd be like,
intense.
he'd be like,
I hung up on the
"Oh,
wood.
yeah." He'd be like, "Oh, you're a big man in the sky, huh? Big. There's a guy up there. That's you. You're that guy." I'm like, what do you believe in? Nothing.
I think before you answer what we do about it, I think the other thing that why religion puts a bad taste, I think, in people's mouths when you say religion, which implies some sort of organization to it, is because I think, and I'm not, I think what I'm saying is right, but if you really are going to be of any religion, whatever it is, it doesn't have to be a Christian religion, it could be anything. If you follow it to the letter, you are inherently saying, I am right, you are wrong.
Right.
Right.
I think that naturally does that. I don't think that I don't see churches or that, because that's only my angle on it, right? Is giving a lot of wiggle room to everybody else, and it's like, well, yeah, they might go to heaven too, but really we're right?
Right.
And if that's what the Muslim people are thinking, and the Jewish, and the Christian, and the Buddhist, and the Hindu, and the agnostic, and the atheist, so you're always implying that the other person is really the other.
Right.
Right? Like, there's a whole reality that I know that's real that you don't even know, and you're wrong. Like, that, I think that's why it leaves a bad taste in people's mouths.
You're always othering someone else if you are like fanatical. And that's the thing, too. I don't like fanaticism in any form. Like, I'm not some super Christian, you know what I mean? I'm not.
Oh, sure, right.
I honestly, there are many paths. Like, I mean, if God is this huge God that can do all these things, then how could there just be a way to understand God? So, but for some people, that would not make me Christian enough. Do you know what I mean? So,
Right, absolutely. And then you'd feel alienated from them.
right.
And it's funny. I don't know if you know Penn Jillette. He's like from Penn and Teller.
We say Penn and Teller. Okay, yeah.
Yeah. He's like the most atheist person. He's like written books on it and like super duper heavy. And he comes off as anti-religion, which you would really usually bug me because I don't like anybody being anti anything.
Right.
But I listened to an interview with him a couple months ago, and he said something that really stuck with me. Is because they asked him why he was atheist, why he identified as atheist, and he says, "I don't really identify as atheist. I don't identify as anything else because if I ask you what's up there or what's above us or what is the your answer, if your answer is anything other than I don't know, you're in theory wrong because you don't know. You don't know." And so that's that was where he came from, where he was like, I'm not an atheist. I'm just embracing the fact that I don't know. And neither do you.
Right.
Nobody knows. And then that kind of stuck with me as like, well, that's kind of the way to put it. The way to embrace it is not, and this is just my opinion, is to move away from I know this is true and move more towards I believe this is true, or I feel this is true, or this is what I want to be true is sometimes enough. You know, and I think that's where the alienating comes from, is the know versus the belief.
Right. No, that's fair. And that makes sense. That makes ultimate sense. And that's why I think most people who are, I don't put anybody in any class, you know, like who are atheists or agnostic. Some of them are saying, hell no. But some people are like, well, I don't know, you know, and if this is what you believe, I don't know that I like that particular story or narration of God or whatever the case may be in it. But they're not saying no. You know what I mean? They're just, it's just, I don't like this story, and which is okay, because some of the stories are not likable. So.
Right. Exactly.
I just think that no matter what you believe, what you can't deny is literally what's around you. And everybody's different. And that obviously has to be true, because I'm seeing it.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely. No matter what you believe, I don't believe what you want to believe, but open your eyes, because
that's where the concept of a soul comes from, right? I look around, and I said to Danielle, this COVID thing that's going on has really kind of opened my eyes in the weirdest way. The numbers grow of people who are dying from this, and it's awful. And one of the weird things that this has done, if anything else, and I said this right the other day, was it's almost solidified for me a little bit more of my belief in the concept of a soul and another plane. I don't know why. And I don't want to go into what I believe per se. But something about this, there's no way, in my mind, it's just showing to me there's no way that this many people are just leaving existence entirely.
Right.
I don't think, as you see it happen in mass, you think to yourself, there's got to be something past this, because all of these people are going there. Like it's weird, and it's kind of the weird takeaway that I've been feeling through this whole thing. It's like it's sad, almost more sad, but I don't know. So it's kind of weird. But you're right, Frank. You can't deny what's around you. I'm different personality-wise. My likes, my dislikes, my interests are different than yours, That already says to me that there's something somewhere putting that to work. You know? Who is it? Oh my gosh. The guy who had the movie about him. I can't describe him any other way. The genius in the chair. What was his name?
Stephen Hawking.
Oh. I couldn't think of another way to. I really tried. You saw I tried. I said there was a movie about him. Stephen Hawking.
Genius in the chair.
Stephen Hawking said that science can break down the most minute thing. The one thing science cannot prove is a soul, a personality, what it is that makes you and me. Science, you can't break that down. And that says to me that if Stephen Hawking can say maybe, then I can say maybe.
Right.
Taya, can you tell us about U University and also your podcast?
Oh, okay. So U University is something I kind of started after I was an admissions counselor at a university. And it's like one day I just got tired of rejecting students, because only so many are going to get in. You know, that's the whole game with the college admissions thing. It's only about 2,000 you're going to make it. But, you know, everyone applies and you go through all this. And then I thought, wow, what is going to happen to this person that just didn't get in, like barely, you know, by a little bit, or their academic profile just wasn't what we wanted, but they're not necessarily a bad student. And then, you know, just the way then, I'm not sure how it is now, but, you know, kids focus on one school or one kind of career, and then it doesn't work out, and they're just sort of like, but there's no plan for that. You know what I mean? And then back then there was more of a stigma associated with community college, and that's really where a lot of people need to go. And it's great, and you have the best experience. You have a higher GPA when you graduate, and you get a scholarship. But no one talks about that. So I was like, I want to help those students, and then there's tons of programs for A students and students that are getting kicked out, behavior, all this. But, you have the CD students, which are the ones that are not really getting into all these schools they might want to get into and what's happening to those students. So your university is what is college admissions, access, counseling. So it's everything that you need to do to prepare to get into college and even prepare to apply, get accepted, hopefully. And then for me, even when you're there, like if we want to continue the relationship, because you can get into college, but doesn't mean you're going to get out. And that's also like a thing too, because there's a lot of things that like even just for myself, first generation college student, suburban, white campus, that in itself is a process. Then academically trying to, perform in that way or advocate for myself and just all the things that you have to go through. So the idea is to, work with students, families, or do like kind of small like programs with churches, like after school. And a lot of it is writing, because writing is my kind of like my stronger point. And I think that if you're an effective communicator, that goes so far. And math is definitely not my thing. We can get you a tutor or something for that. But, working with the essays, doing research, trying to figure out what kind of career path you might be interested in or possible career paths, and not just being pigeonholed into these do this, do that. And even if, like I've had tough conversations like, well, you might not get pre-med because, you have a C in a lot of your science classes. I'm not saying you can never be a doctor. I'm just saying you might not, you might have to do some other strategizing to get there. And I feel like.
Right. And when you become a doctor, let me know where you're practicing so I don't go there.
Right. I mean, like, it's terrible to say, but some doctors were C students, and that doesn't mean there's a C doctor, but it's just life. There are some lawyers they weren't great in law school, but they made it. I mean, it is what it is. So it doesn't have to be pretty. You just got to get out. I'm like college is a receipt. People just want to know, can you show up, commit, and complete? And then grad school is where you specialize and you can kind of really get into things you like. But I'm like, just get in and get out. It doesn't have to be pretty. Just get it done. And if it's great, amazing. But I like to just like be real. People have all these kind of fantasy things they want to like tell young people, but like just it's hard. You can just go part-time. You don't have to live there. Like do what's reasonable for your circumstances, but don't try to create all this debt. Don't choose this major, like business major, but you don't even like business. Like just get out, just get the degree and get out of there. And then you can figure out the rest of that stuff later.
Right.
So that's what university is. And essentially I've worked with I've had the opportunity to work with churches and just kind of creating like after school programs and bringing those components in and just working groups of young people that meet at these places, maybe go in, speak with them. If anybody wants any college counseling, as students that I used to work at a program, like after like a legit program all by itself. And after I left, I still kept in contact with those students. And it's so funny. The other day, I was like, wow, a lot of them have graduated now. And it's just amazing. Like, oh, they made it. Like, wow, you guys really and I remember, you missed your appointment. Like, where's your essay? But they actually went in, did it. This one girl, she was really determined to go to Syracuse. And she got into some other schools, but she just wanted to go to Syracuse so bad. And she went to like a CUNY for like a semester or two. And then one day she was like, I got in. And she transferred to Syracuse. She graduated. And I was like, good for you for not giving up. I'm glad you ignored me, because I was like, just go to here.
Right.
She just was like, no, I want to go. She just wanted to go to Syracuse. So, but that happened. And I'm not saying it was because of me being her counselor, but she just like, hey, you know what? Just keep trying. If this is what you really want to do, then keep trying. You know what I mean? And even if it doesn't happen, make sure you go somewhere and just to get to where you want to be. And it was really that. And then the podcast was with my classmate, a guy that we went to seminary together. And after we graduated, we happened just sitting around for a while. We would just have these conversations. Like, wouldn't it be great if we could just like talk about this, like in a format where we can the people some kind of way, or just share this sort of idea that we have. I don't know. And I went to like Brick Studios in Brooklyn, and they had these podcasting classes and the editing and all this stuff. And I was like, actually really discovered like, wow, I really like podcasts. This is like really a great medium, because I don't necessarily always like being in front of people can be a little bit nerve wracking, and podcasts it's your voice. So, and then you can be whatever flavor you want it to be. So we kind of did it as a wasn't really an experiment. I mean, we were pretty serious about it. We only did 10 episodes, and then we just kind of stopped. I think life got in the way. And I was actually texting him today, and I was like, should we try to start this back up again? I don't know. But it was great, and people were into it, and mainly because we were saying something that people weren't saying, which is, well, on a podcast, like, hey, you know what? God is non-binary, and we're queer in the Bible, and essentially just in the sense of the word queer, just disrupting all these different things that people hold on to that are not necessarily like true, and that God is bigger than this little tiny, I always say people make God really small. Like God is not the size of your pocket. Like God is bigger than all of that. So like, don't make God small. And just the things that are uncomfortable, like, these certain stories and these moments between people that are intimate. Like we did an episode on Jonathan and David. And that's like, I wouldn't go as far as just, like, some gay people were like, they didn't use those words then, but they definitely had a very intimate relationship. You know what I mean? And the words that they say to each other are intimate words. So we have to at least acknowledge that this was not a heterosexual thing here. And then there's where queerness shows up in the Bible, and it shows up, again. So stuff like that, which makes people uncomfortable. And we were even uncomfortable, like, oh shoot, are people gonna send us hate mail? Like, I don't know. So we'll just see what happens.
That's that's important. I think to be able to say, if you're saying something that you think somebody is not going to like, it means somebody else is going to like it.
Right.
That's what we do all the time.
We say things people don't like all the time. We get to hear back if they like it. I think I want to put a nice little bow on this and say youth and LGBTQ plus is a very complicated combination. Youth and religion is a very complicated combination, and LGBTQ plus and religion are a very complicated combination. Mm-hmm. So you take all three and you put them together, and you decide, I'm going to address this. Oh, that already says to me that you're on the right path. And I don't know, you don't need my permission, but you know what I'm saying? Like, to me, and I think hopefully our listeners as well. And I think we always look for what makes our guests a nobody, right? Our show is called The Nothing Podcast with Nobody Important. And the thing is that everybody's important. The turnaround is that everybody's a nobody and every nobody's important.
John, before you wrap up, can I just ask Taya a quick question? This is just one rapid fire question.
Please do.
Oh, Taya, we're going to talk about, the book of Deuteronomy?
Yeah, I never.
Okay, so that's fine. So the book of Deuteronomy, the Bible, Dame Judi Dench played Old Deuteronomy in Cats the movie. What's your take on Cats the movie?
I don't think I've ever seen Cats the movie.
Well, let me say something, Taya. There is nothing that would make you believe in God less than Cats the movie. Yeah. Do not watch it. You will lose your ministry, your faith in humanity, and you'll just hate cats. Do not see it.
It's so true.
Deuteronomy has no place. Oh, God. Well, Taya, I want to thank you for doing this. I want to plug all your stuff.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Oh no, this has been great. Let's plug your website.
Oh, okay.
And Instagram or whatever it is you've got.
You got like 18 Instagrams.
I know, it's too many. So it's Sontaia, Sontaia _Briggs. That's just the public IG. And then there is U University. It's YOUUNIVRSITY. I almost forgot to spell university. And that's and essentially for me, it's just, it'll be things I'm doing, and then just uplifting, and then partnerships, and all about collaborations and just relationships and anything that can, I guess, expand, the love for God that I have and God has for me to others. And then also just doing the work, so, but no, I didn't know what we were going to talk about. And I was like,
Well, like we said, it's a toss up as to, you're like, oh, are they going to try to stump me? Are they going to roast me? Are they going to, you don't know what?
You definitely earned your half an egg sandwich, Taya.
Yes,
Let me tell you something.
Absolutely.
So maybe can we wrap up with Taya by just a big amen? Can we do that?
Yes, absolutely.
Anything you want to say?
I want to just say that all of your links and everything will be in the show notes.
Everything cool.
Will be.
No, I appreciate it.
If you're on iTunes or you're in Spotify, whatever it is, in the show notes, you'll be able to find all of Taya's stuff, and you'll be able to get in touch with her through there.
Thank you. Thank you all so much.
Thank you, Taya.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, Sontaia Briggs.
Amen. Yes. Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
You've been listening to the Nothing Podcast with Nobody Important, a cool side production, hosted by John Panepinto and Frank Caiati, with contributors Matt Hunt, Joe Hagopian, and Tom Zaccheo, and engineered by me, Danielle Rosefisher. Find us online at nothing-podcast.com, and be sure to rate and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever fine podcasts are distributed.